Chris Goward founded WiderFunnel in 2007 with the belief that digital agencies should prove their value. He's developed conversion optimization programs for clients like Electronic Arts, SAP, Google, Magento, and many more. He is the brains behind the Lift and Kaizen methods. If you know the methods, you should know the methods. And also the author of the book, You Should Test That. Câți ați citit You Should Test That? Mâna sus. Ok? Câțiva. Se poate mai mult. Ok. Chris Goward, please.
Great to be here in Bucharest. First time. You guys are lovely. It's been great to meet you. But, you know, you've been sitting for a little while, so I want to start with something first off. I want everyone to stand up. Just stand up for a second. Stand up with me. Okay, now everyone put your hands in the air like this. Go, yeah! All right. So research shows that making this pose and holding it for 2 minutes will make you feel more like a champion, will give you a better day, make you more successful in your work. So do that every day when you get to work. Get to the office and just go like this. 2 minutes. And you'll have a better day, promise you. All right. So I'm going to talk about 6 lessons from the future, 6 tips from the future of conversion optimization. We've been doing this since 2007. There's a lot of things we're learning with large companies that can be applied to yours as well. All we do is conversion optimization for high traffic companies. eBay, Magento, Epson, Google. And I'm going to show you some of the things that you can take back to your office today. All right? You guys are quiet now. Okay. Proof is in the pudding, I know. Here we go. There we go. Okay. Wine Express is a company owned by wine enthusiasts. It's one of the largest publishers in the US. They have 1 million emails in their database that they send every day, an email with their wine of the day offer. So everyone gets this email, and this is the landing page from that email. It's kind of hard to read, see it, but essentially this is the most important page in their business. This drives the majority of their revenue. They'd been optimizing this for several years, but they'd hit a plateau. They didn't know what to do next. So they came and talked to us, and we ran a test. We ran several tests, and I'm going to show you some of the things. I'm actually going to get you to test your conversion optimization skills here. So here are 2 variations that we tested. And you'll see that both of these are dramatically different from the original. Right? We changed the eye flow, we changed the content placement, the imagery, where we're putting the calls to action. And that's what we call a variable cluster test, where we're changing a whole bunch of different things and testing it to try and get this higher benchmark, right? Sort of the swing for the fences. You guys don't watch baseball here, do you? Kick for the goal, I don't know. A big improvement, okay? And then between these 2, we also had an isolation. The only difference was this call to action area. We wanted to understand which would drive more sales. So the first one says, our price, discounted case price, in stock, add to cart. The other one has a larger on sale now, larger price, and a larger add to cart button. So, which one won? How many think A won? First one? Okay, who's going for B? Wow, no one voted for A. You're wrong. So that was a 5% conversion rate lift for sale. Now, you know, that's not bad for someone sending 1 million emails a day, right? That makes a big impact. And then when we looked at the revenue, it actually turned out to be a 41% lift in revenue per visitor from this variation. So what's going on here? Let's take a look at another example. Okay, this is, again, an isolation. The only difference between these 2 is in that header. We've got an order in the next however many hours, minutes, and seconds, a countdown timer. And in variation B, it's just blank. There's nothing there, okay? So we're creating urgency versus nothing. So how many are going for A? Who's going for A? Okay. You guys have been reading the best practices blogs. Who's going for B? Okay, so who's decided not to vote? Yeah, good. At least you're honest. I appreciate that. So turns out, B1. Now, so what's going on? You guys are like staring at me like deer in headlights, right? Like, what? This is not true. This can't be true. I've read all the blogs. I know what works. Urgency works, except when it doesn't. So the thing is, this is a unique target audience. And for this audience, they're a sophisticated wine connoisseur. They're a high average household income. They know what they're looking for, and they're here to find out about the wine. In fact, what we found, the highest correlation to sales was in increasing the prominence of the video, of the sommelier's tasting notes, putting that closer to the call to action, increased their case orders. More people were buying cases because they could understand about the wine. That's all they wanted. Anything that smelled of marketing just turned them off, and the bounce rate went through the roof. So what I'm going to talk to you today is about the future. In the future, you'll be skeptical of best practices. You won't read the blogs and go and change your website to apply to whatever HubSpot says you should do. So if I'm to improve Forever 21's website, right? This is a popular shopping website in the US. I don't know if you've got it here, but the first thing I've got to do is put myself in the mind of the shopper. So I'm a 13-year-old girl. You didn't know that about me, but it's true. So I arrive on this website, and I'm looking for pants. I need capris for the summer, right? Gotta freshen up the wardrobe. So I arrive on the site. The first thing I have to do as your shopper is understand how you've built this website, because every website is different, isn't it? Right? You've got a different structure. Where do I find pants? I don't know. Maybe it's up in the navigation somewhere. It's certainly not right in front of me, but now you're talking to me about a 75% offer. That's pretty compelling. So I'm conflicted here. I don't see my pants, but I see something that's pretty interesting. So now I've got to figure out, how do I click on this thing? Where's the button? Oh, maybe it's that little shop sale, right? So I'm about to click on it, and the whole experience changes. So now I've got to figure out, how do I get back to that 75% off? Because that was actually pretty interesting. But now I'm seeing shop by outfit. Well, maybe this has my pants. Now what do I do? I'm about to click on that one, and the whole experience changes again. Now, don't answer this question. How many of you have a rotating carousel on your homepage? Right? Yeah, I know. I've been to your websites. They suck. So rotating carousels, virtually every time we test them, they lose. And yet they're on 90% of the Fortune 500. Why? Well, somebody decided to start it. Somebody thought it was a great idea and copied it. And it solves the art director's problem, doesn't it? They've got all of their competing priorities, people saying, oh, we need our promotion, we need our thing on the homepage. And they don't want to ruin their beautiful design, so they just create a new design spread. But from the shopper's perspective, it sucks. And it kills conversion rates. So this is, of course, the takeaway. You should test that. Find out if it actually works in your scenario. Because best practices don't work. OK, so you've heard many tell you that you should put security symbols as prominently as possible on your website, right? You got to give people, reduce their anxiety, make them feel comfortable, except when it hurts your sales. So in this case, we had a test with putting the security symbol by the persistent call to action across the website. It reduced their sales by almost 2%. This guy has taken the advice as far as possible. Right? Does this make you want to shop here? Look at all these security symbols. Clearly, it's a high security environment. But does it create trust? No, of course it doesn't. It makes you wonder, like, what is this guy trying to do? Like, this seems a little sketchy, right? There's something wrong here. So I sometimes like to take the examples from offline retailers, the bricks and mortar, because they've been perfecting the shopping experience for hundreds of years. Take a look at this example. Warm lighting, right? Plush carpeting, well-spaced out merchandise. You can almost smell the leather wafting out and inviting you into this environment, right? So would you rather shop here or in a high security environment? Right? I mean, they make you pull your credit card out here, but that's not where you want to shop, does it? Here's another example, and I've heard many people say that video is the future of e-commerce. Video is the future of websites. But almost every time we test leading with video as the primary message on a landing page, it hurts conversion rates. Because most people don't have enough time to sit around and watch your video and figure out what you're trying to sell them. What we found through testing is that video works great as a supporting asset, but not as your main message. But don't ask any best practices blog that. Okay, so I want to talk now about one of the biggest best practices that virtually everyone holds right now, and in the future it will die. All right? It's your website redesign. How many of you are planning a website don't answer that. Right? You believe you really need a website redesign because your website sucks. I know it does. But a redesign is the last possible thing you need. I'm going to show you why. First, I'll show you an example of what the problem is. 24% of marketers are extremely happy with their latest redesign. 24%. Do you know how much money they spent on that? And they're unhappy. So Build Direct came to us about just over a year ago, and they'd been optimizing for 3 years. They'd used all the best tools, but they were technologists. They're a data-driven company. Build Direct, by the way, is they sell heavyweight products. So whereas Amazon's average order size, I think, is around 25 pounds, their average order is about 2,500 pounds. So they sell flooring and countertops, and their logistics system beats Amazon in that bracket by far. But they needed a website redesign because it was really stale. Like, it looked like it had been built by developers, right? Data-driven company. So they'd been testing for 3 years, really needed an improvement. But the problem with a traditional website redesign is something they were facing. They knew they had to take a data-driven approach because this is the typical situation. Your website, after you do a redesign, has been so painful. You've gone through this excruciating experience of going over budget, delay, and hating it that you just want to forget it for as long as possible, right? If you've ever been through that process, you know. And so you're going to wait for 3 to 5 years in between before your next redesign. And in the meantime, the best of the web keeps getting better, doesn't it? Expectations of websites continue to increase. So the best websites are going up, yours stays the same, and you have this gap, which is your increasing wedge of suckiness. Every day, your website is getting worse by default because the expectations are getting higher. That's not even the worst part of a website redesign. You're changing thousands of things all at once. You're going to change headlines, product images, layouts, shipping options. All of these things, you're going to flip a switch one day on your website redesign, and the whole thing changes. And you have no idea the impact that each of those changes has on your website, on your conversion rate. Do you? And most times, if you're like most companies, your conversion rate falls. You've just spent $500,000 on this beautiful new website, tanks. You're in a cold sweat. It's terrible. So this is what the best of the web is doing now. Continuous website improvement, continuous A/B testing-driven redesign. So think about this. When was the last time Amazon redesigned their website? They've never redesigned their website. And they always redesign their website because they're continuously testing and improving and optimizing the whole experience. And they'll never make a change without testing it. That's what the future of web redesign is. So I believe you'll never do a redesign again in the future. I'm going to show you how we did it with Build Direct. So we took this approach. Now, we'd been testing with them for a few months and realized that really what they needed was an overhaul. And so we ended up looking at the main elements of their website that impacted their design experience. So they had the top nav, the left column, and the right column, which was fairly consistent across the site. And then the center content was a different component. So then we started with the left column, ran a test, redesigning the left column across the site, and got a 16% lift in sales, just for the left column redesign. And then continue to improve the right column, right, isolating that across the site, and then the header. And we've continued to test from there. This was one iteration. But essentially, through that step-by-step process, they've got a brand new website, completely different look and feel, and no risk. All that's happened is their conversion rate continues to increase. Now, I often get the question, okay, now you can't do complicated, dramatic stuff with A/B testing. So I want to show you how we can test information architecture with A/B testing. These two pages are exactly the same. This is their home page, and what we're doing here is testing the next step in the information architecture. So you come from the home page, and you see you've got the main intro with their value proposition, and then the categories of products down below, which we tested. We already improved and made sure that this layout was actually the best for their home page. Within these categories and subcategory links, we wanted to find out, did they need the current next step category page, or should we send them to a listing of products within that category so that they could filter and sort? So what's better? Having these category pages that merchandise the category, or allowing the customers to filter and sort and find the products they want? That's an information architecture question. How do you know? Right? Your design agency is going to present two options for you. How do you choose? Right? The Hippo method, right? The highest paid person's opinion, right? They pointed the one they want. Okay, so what do you think worked? How many think the category page worked better? And the product listing? Oh, now there's very few votes happening. I know, you guys are scared. You're like, I have no idea. Right? You're right. In this case, the category page won. Category information architecture. And that was their original. It was a 27% lift over the other option. So that could have been considered, well, that's interesting. It's a finding that actually disproved our hypothesis. We thought that maybe a product listing would be better. But what was great about that is that now that validated that that step is really important. And then you can continue to test on that page and find an even better approach to the category pages that allows shoppers to drill into what they want much more easily. So for them, after 12 months, they've had $1 million increase in revenue on a monthly basis from the process. So if you'd like results like that, I mean, you want to consider that. Plus a redesign. This is the latest compared to the original 12 months ago. So you can see totally dramatic redesign. There's no one that can say this isn't a complete change from what they had. And it's all totally risk-free. Okay, so how do you do that? I'm going to shift gears a little bit here now and talk about how to become the marketer of the future. It's all about in your mindset. Okay? In the future, you will be a Zen marketer. And I don't mean you'll have incense going in your office, although often I do that. But you'll know how to combine the yin and the yang of marketing. And this is one of the biggest problems in marketing right now, is that there's a conflict. Some people are really data-driven marketers, right? They're digging into analytics, and they really think all of the answers are in the data. Other people are inspiration-focused, and they're all about the big ideas and the creativity. And these two groups butt heads, don't they? Right? The brand marketers and the data geeks. And they're always like arm wrestling in the boardroom. No, but the brand's important. No, sales, no. But the best marketers of the future will embrace the dichotomy, understanding that there's a logic that's needed. Testing is the only way to understand what really works. But how do you know what to test? You need creativity. You need inspiration. Right? You need some new ideas. So how does this apply to conversion optimization? There's a problem happening with the qualitative inspirational marketers, where they're looking at their qualitative data and being driven completely by what the users are saying, right? The voice of customer, and they're just making random decisions based on a small group of people. Your qualitative data is unreliable. I'm going to tell you why. There's three main categories of risk here. One is when you're talking to small groups of customers, there's a sampling issue. Hang on. There's a sampling issue. And this is a problem. A lot of marketers are going in, they're doing user testing, right? They might sample 5 or 10 people, ask them some questions, and then they'll report on that as if it's statistically significant. And so there's a sampling problem where that sample, it does not represent your audience. There's also a sampling bias. And there's a self-selection bias. People that go into or answer surveys are the kinds of people that like answering surveys. So you're never going to get people that don't like doing that. People like me, I'm never going to answer your survey. And there's more than that, too. There's an influence problem. A well-known research flaw is called the Hawthorne effect, which says that it's impossible to observe a thing without influencing that thing. Putting someone in a sterile environment or an artificial environment influences their answers. They're trying to please you. Also, the observer expectancy effect. When you're doing user studies with people, it's impossible for a researcher not to influence that person and give them hints about what they're trying to get out of it. And then, of course, there's the artificial scenario problem. Sit a person down in front of your website, ask them some questions. Say you sit someone in front of your website and say, hey, you know what, find a blue sweater. And you're trying to find problems that they're going to have. Well, what if they don't want a blue sweater? You can't ask that question, because there's no way of getting into their heads. So there's a problem with qualitative data, right? It's totally flawed, and it's unreliable, and it's critical to getting the best results. And that's OK. As a Zen marketer, you'll be able to be comfortable with this dichotomy, this conflict between data and inspiration. And I'm going to show you 5 ways now that you can understand your customers better, okay? Because that's what it's all about. Conversion optimization is about results and insights about your customer. So it's all about getting into this guy's head. I know it's a messy place. Do you really want to be there? But this is your customer, okay? So 5 ways. The traditional qualitative methods, you can use post-purchase surveys. These are some of the most valuable places to be. Someone has motivation. They're their happiest point with you right now. Ask them, why did they buy? What almost stopped them from buying? What are the important things you'd like to know about them? On-site surveys, allowing people to respond to you wherever they hit problems. Their web analytics behavior, of course, digging into how people are responding and where they're hitting barriers. And then user testing. So all of these things are qualitative and allow you to sort of understand a little bit of what might be happening. But the last one is where the real power is, taking these qualitative pieces of information and then validating them through A/B testing. And most people wouldn't put A/B testing on a list of ways to understand your customers. But it's actually the most powerful. I'm going to show you a framework for how you can do that. First of all, it's important to understand conceptually that your prospects are not like you. As much as you may look like your customers, you may even demographically resemble them, they have a different set of filters. And the information that you communicate is not the information that they understand. Because it passes through this lens of all of the experiences they've had with your brand and outside of your brand. Experiences from their childhood, experiences from their demographics and psychographics and where they live, their perspective on how to shop. All of these things influence everything that you're saying to them. So how do you really understand what's going on in their head? The only way is to test your value proposition and how it motivates them to act. Okay? So I'm going to show you, because the value proposition is the core of what you're offering to your customers. I'm going to show you 2 frameworks today. One is how to test your value proposition, and the other is how to come up with hypotheses to test. It's all about WiFIC. What's in it for your customer? I just made that up, but it sounds good. OK, so sometimes it helps to make this more tangible. So I was in Las Vegas a couple months ago, and this was across the street from my hotel. Now, hotels have a very clear place to present their value proposition, right? They've got a sign out on the street, and it tells you what to expect when you get in there. So for this guy, unfortunately, coffee and accepting credit cards was, the best thing they could come up with. So clearly, I was in the wrong neighborhood. But I feel bad for hotels because they can't test their value proposition. You can. And are you testing the motivation behind why your people are acting? And interestingly, this has nothing to do with the presentation, but right beside this hotel, there was a gun club and a liquor store combined. I thought, only in Vegas can this happen. I think it might have been a strip club, too. I'm not sure. But anyway. OK, so here it is. The Pods, Pops, and Poise framework, which I really need to rename, but it works for now. So Okay, so you got your prospects' desires, right? These are all of the things your shoppers want. And then your features. What's unique about you? What's unique about your store, and why should they buy there? And your competitors' features. Now, most marketers are focused right in this central area. Those are your points of parity. This is where you know your customers want this, you know your competitors are offering this, and you can do it too. So you're waving your hand furiously. I can do that too. We have free shipping. So does everyone. Okay, so that's not where you want to be, because that's the red ocean, right? That's where all the sharks are bloody fighting it out for a few fish. Where you want to be is the blue ocean, your pods. This is where your prospects' desires match up with your features, and no one else is there. No one else can offer these features. No one's even trying, because they know they can't. What is that for you? And you can actually workshop this with your team, right? Brainstorming. Okay, what are our pods? What are the features we have that no one else can touch that might be useful for our audience? There's a third category that a lot of engineers are stuck in, and really innovative companies, where you spend a lot of time creating some really cool features that no one cares about. And those are the pois. So sometimes when I talk to developers down in the Silicon Valley, and they all start hiding their faces here. So actually, this is a really useful exercise, and we're going to go through some of this in the workshop tomorrow too, of thinking about your pods and how you can test and improve those. So I'm going to show an example here. Interestingly, landing pages are probably the best places within any area of your business that you can find out what your best value proposition is. Because once you understand what your pods are, your potential pods, you can rank them in different ways, take different approaches, and find out what moves people to act. And these are virgin eyeballs on your landing pages. It's a perfect place to find out what motivates people. So this is Expensify. It's an app in the Valley, Series A funded, and it's an app for tracking your expenses when you're on the road and filing them in. It's actually a pretty cool app. And they were the best at creating apps. They knew that. They hadn't created a really great website, although it wasn't bad. This was the website they came to us with. Essentially, it was a 3-page website. But it illustrates kind of an interesting question. So the goal here was to increase signups, right? And you might have something similar when you've got newsletter signups or something that's very focused on a message. How do you get people to act? And we went through an analysis using the lift model, which I'll show you in a moment, for how to analyze and create powerful hypotheses. But I want to show you one test. So, of course, these were, again, this was several tests in, and it was dramatically different from the original. But what we had here was an isolation emphasizing features, expenses, receipts, and reports versus benefits, flexible, hassle-free, ironclad security. And this is always a debate with marketers, right? What works better, features or benefits? You've probably got a very strong opinion about this. So let's find out. How many think features won in this case? Let's go for features. Okay, some strong opinions on features. I see some hands. Okay, who's going for benefits? Right, good. Yeah, typical marketer room. More benefits. Okay, well, you're right in this case. There you go. Chalk that one up. Finally, feeling a little better about yourself, that you're not a total loser. Yeah, 28% more users signing up. 28% conversion rate lift. And what was cool for them is that wasn't the end, right? So we'd learned some things about the messaging that worked, some design changes, and we'd done a bunch more test rounds. And in the end, the winning design that we ended up with was completely different. This one actually increased their conversion rate by 47%. And during the testing, got them over the 1 million user mark, which was great for their founders and investors. They loved that. And a website redesign at the same time. So that process worked for them. It's the same, essentially the same thing as with Build Direct. So here's the next thing that's going to change. Right now, there are a lot of people approaching conversion optimization as a project. They're going in and saying, okay, we need to optimize our website. Let's run some tests. And they might take it as a 3-month thing. But the best companies and the companies of the future that are going to win see conversion optimization as an ongoing profit center. This is not a project. This is not a one-time capital expense. it's an ongoing investment on a monthly basis. Amazon has a whole team. Actually, they have several teams. All they do is conversion optimization. They don't stop. So I'm going to show you an overview of the process, because what we found is that the most critical component to getting great results is to having a reliable process. In fact, eConsultancy did a study and showed that when they looked at companies that do conversion optimization, that have a conversion strategy, those that said they have a structured approach to conversion optimization were twice as likely to report large increases in sales from the program. Just having a process that you stick to creates better results. So at a high level, this is the process that we use, and you can adopt whatever you want from this. Essentially, there's two phases. One is to create the conversion optimization strategy, which is looking at how to prioritize where to focus your effort. And the second phase is once you've identified all of the pages or templates or opportunities for improvement, then going through and creating powerful hypotheses within those. So I'm going to drill into the second component. How do you create powerful hypotheses? Because the future of marketing, marketers will use framework thinking to get better ideas about how to solve their problems, and not just be randomly chasing after tactics, which so many marketers seem to be doing right now, right? Just chasing the latest shiny thing. Hey, squirrel. That's not a good way to market. So look at your problems and how to solve them using the right frameworks. So the best thing you can do when looking at your pages, looking at your funnels, is to identify what are the right questions to ask. What are the potential barriers that my customers, from their perspective, could be facing? So here's the model that we've been using and developing since 2007. It's called the LIFT model. I know some of you are familiar with it. Essentially, I'm going to show you a high-level view of the 6 factors that are impacting your conversion rate right now. Okay? The core of it, as I've already said, is your value proposition. And I like to think of it as an equation that goes on in your prospect's mind between the perceived costs of taking action and the perceived benefits. If the benefits are stronger than the costs, they'll have motivation to act. Your job isn't done, but they'll have some motivation. If the costs are greater, they'll bounce right away. And then you've got relevance of the presentation. How relevant is it to the source media that they came from, to their mind frame? Clarity of the presentation. It's clarity of the eye flow and the imagery, the call to action, the copywriting. And then factors that reduce your conversion rate include anxiety and distraction. Anxiety could be overemphasizing security. Could be asking for too many form fields that they don't need, right? It could be any number of things. Distraction is redirecting attention from the primary message that you want them to have. And then urgency. Why should they act now? So looking at all of these things from the perspective of your prospects, of your shoppers, will help you understand where the barriers are that they're facing. There's actually 27 sub-factors, which I won't go into, but it's, you can get the book if you really care about all that stuff, or Google it. But essentially, starting with the 6 will give you a good starting point to understand where to begin. So here's another example. This is nurse.com. This is a landing page from their paid search. Now, nurse.com is a large publisher. They sell, it's part of Gannett, which is a big publishing group. They sell continuing education courses for nurses. So nurses have to keep their accreditation in the US, and so with each state they have different requirements, and they've got to go in and buy continuing education. They know what CE is, that's how they look for it. So they're Googling CE, and they land on this page. So how would you improve this page? The first thing, as I've said, is to put yourself from the perspective of your prospect into their mindset, and then evaluate this based on the 6 factors. And I'll show you some of the things that we identified. The headline treatment, the type uses different fonts, different colors, different design embellishments, which creates what we call cognitive load, reduces a person's ability to understand the message. There's a ready to get started area that's not clickable. It looks like a button. There's no hover treatment on the buttons. There's image eye flow, right? The images going back and forth, which you may see commonly. Designers love to do that, but it disturbs the eye flow. There's a long course list on the right that's hurting conversions because it's distracting into a bad funnel. and value propositions hidden in the bottom. This is one of the most common things I find with marketers. It's funny how often this happens. You'll look at a page and read all of this content that the marketer's written, and it's beautiful, fluffy content that no one cares about. And then at the bottom, it's like the marketers run out of words, and they write a sentence that's just beautiful, and it says exactly what they mean to say. So this is just a tip. Try this on your website. Go to the bottom of your page and look at the last paragraph, and try putting that as your headline. It might work. We've done that a few times. So the next step is to take all of these problems, convert these problems into hypotheses, and then isolate them and test them. Now, what was interesting is that after we were running a test, and we found then through the click heatmap analysis, really great resonance with what we'd already seen and hypothesized. So there were clicks in the non-clickable area. We could see clicks dispersed over the course list. There were competing clicks on these 2 calls to action, which were distracting. Actually, more clicks on the one they didn't want people to click on. And most importantly, no interest at all in the body content area. Right? Now, I'm going to show you the winning landing page. So if you want a copy, I know Andre's going to send you a copy of the slides, I think. And this is a beautiful landing page from a conversion perspective. 16% increase in sales. And the reason is because it solved all of those problems. Right? We've got a consolidated headline that encapsulates the value proposition. A value proposition statements down the left in the I flow leading straight towards the main area we want people to focus on. That's the content for them. That's high relevance content specified to the state that they're in. Increased sales by 16%, and beautifully, the I flow, look at this, attention, right where we want people to be. Right? You guys are totally thrilled by this. From a conversion perspective, this is gorgeous. Yeah. So, what I want to leave you with is a few tips that you can take away from the future. I believe that these are things that you'll be able to apply to your business today, because the future of testing is the future of marketing. Marketers of the future will combine these disparate areas, validate their hypotheses through testing, and I believe the marketers who learn how to test through a rigorous process and understand insights from their customers will become the leaders in the company, because they actually have statistically valid knowledge about what actually works. And we've seen many times companies feeding this knowledge back into to change their entire organizational structure, their hiring plans, their marketing strategy. It's a powerful thing that's right in your hands. So, we do have some time for questions. If you want to learn more, as Andre said, there is a book. I make virtually nothing on the book, so it's really because I want to spread this knowledge. Literally, I make $2 when you buy a book, so it's no big deal to me if you buy it or not. But it's essentially got everything that I knew up until last year in there. Or you can get a free chapter at youshouldtestthat.com. And that's what I have. So we'll open it up for questions. I think we have a few minutes here for questions. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Silviu Strate from Forestview. First question is, when do you consider A/B testing as successful? Meaning at what percentage? 3, 5?
Okay, when do we consider a test successful? So the percentage lift doesn't actually matter. What we're looking for is the statistical significance of that lift. So we could have a winner at 1% or 3% or 10%, and it's just a statistics question of when it's achieved 95% statistical significance. And if you're using a proper testing tool, like an A/B testing tool on your website, most of them will have that calculation built in. Otherwise, there's online calculators that'll tell you that. And a rule of thumb generally is you'll need 200 to 500 conversions per variation to get significance.
And the second question is, do you do blank A/B testing?
Blank?
Blank, meaning you will do A/B testing, but you will not change nothing, and you show to your audience the same website in the left and the same website on the right. And from my test, I noticed that the conversions differ. So this is a good test to know what's your minimum percentage. If the difference is 3%, so when you run a test, it's better to have a successful rate better than 3%.
Okay, so what you're looking at there is validating that the test is giving you meaningful data. right? Running the same variations at the same time. Yeah. So that's a question of the testing tool validity and statistical variance. And certainly, yeah, we do those tests to validate especially when we're starting with new tools. And generally, the percentage difference doesn't matter. You can have a 1% difference or a 3% difference, but 19 times out of 20, statistically, they will not be statistically significant. Okay, so that's a stats question.
Okay, so this is more important to have raised conversion on more buyers or increasing the shopping cart. It's more important than...
Yeah, and that's a goals question. So generally, we want to look at the conversion rate for sale and the average order value, essentially the total revenue, total profitable revenue. I mean, that's ultimately the goal, isn't it?
Other questions for Chris? No one? Please.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm from Smart2Pay, and I want to ask you about the payments in the checkout. Have you also done A/B testing on the checkout and the payment methods, and what can you tell us about them? Thank you.
Yeah, we certainly have quite a few. Now, the learning from that is very region and country specific. Because as I understand, in Romania, there's a lot more cash on delivery, for example, than in the US, where it's virtually all credit card prepaid. So the actual tactics that you're going to find work will be completely different here. And so, but the principles and the approach is still the same. Reducing anxiety, right? Increasing clarity of the eye flow of the form fields, minimizing the distraction of design elements within the checkout, even reducing or removing the navigation within the checkout so people are focused on the main area you want them to look at. All of those principles will apply, but the actual tactics of payment and delivery will be different.
What about the number of payment methods in the checkout? Is there a best number, 3, 4, 7, or how many you can get?
Not really, because it's so different by merchant business model and region. In some areas, payment by mobile phone, even in e-commerce, is important, and sometimes there's a whole bunch of different options there. Prepaid, layaway payments. I mean, it really does depend on the expectations of the culture and the environment. Yeah, but generally, as a rule, fewer options, if the options aren't important, is better. Right? There's the paradox of choice that happens when you give people more than a few things to focus on. They don't focus on anything, and they just get confused. Generally, 3 to 6 things is the most people can choose from. And if there's more than that, they may just be overwhelmed.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Yeah, thanks for your presentation. Very interesting. This question is about attribution. How can you make sure that whatever you're testing can be attributed to the changes that we're operating to the website? That is, for instance, there are variations in the customer's behavior depending on the season or on the status of the economy or all kinds of causes. Thanks.
Yeah, that's important to understand. So when I talk about testing, the testing method has to be done right. We're never going to do a before and after test, which I think is what you're referring to when there's seasonality and different things influencing results. And this is where a lot of people get confused. They think they're doing testing when they make a change on the website and look at their analytics before and after. That's essentially meaningless. The only way to get valid tests is to run an A/B test, A, B, C, D, however many variations there are, with the same traffic at the same time concurrently. So every visitor who arrives on the page will be randomly selected by the tool to see different variations, put into a bucket, and then tracked. And then track their conversion rate. So that within that period of time, all of the variations are being presented, and we're looking at the conversion rate difference. It's a controlled test is what it's called. So we're controlling everything else except for the one variable that we're changing between the variations. And if we didn't do it that way, then there's more variables. Yeah, seasonality, stock levels, competitive offers, all of these things would impact it and completely eliminate any learning.
Okay. Any other questions? Last chance before lunch. Okay, thank you very much, Chris.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, Andrea.